Most of the mobs in recent Minecraft updates have not actually fully been mobs. In fact, the latest completely unique mob they added was the creaking, which was added a year ago. But obviously they're making new mobs like the parched and the camel husk and the nautilus and the copper golem, etc. But what if I told you that none of those are even new mobs? Most of the mobs Mojang have added in the past year are variants of currently existing mobs. This can be said about the new cow, pig, and chicken variants, as well as some others that you may be surprised about. In the 1.21.5 Spring to Life drop released in March, Mojang made some changes to the existing chickens, pigs, and cows. Instead of the exact same texture being in every biome, they now have separate textures based on temperature. Unlike before, these mobs now have different texture variants for hot biomes like savannas, temperate biomes like plains, and cold biomes like snowy taigas. These are entirely functionally useless, and some say it's unneeded, but it adds a lot of flavor into each biome you go into. Since cows, chickens, and pigs can spawn in most overworld biomes, having them be the same texture for all of them wouldn't make much sense. So logically, Mojang made 3 separate textures for cold, temperate, and hot biomes. But that's kinda cheating, because they literally added 0 new mobs. Cows, chickens, and pigs already existed before 1.21.5, and other than the 2 new chicken eggs, no new blocks, items, or mobs were added that are similar to the animal variants. But the next update changed that. You see, the update right after 1.21.5, coded 1.21.6, was called Chase the Skies. As you can tell from this promotional material, it was about ghasts, specifically happy ghasts. We all know the regular ghast, right? They live in the nether, they're sad, they spit fireballs, they killed SB-77 when he was naked and afraid, good mobs. But they are literally the only mob like that, which does make them unique, but it's also quite a missed opportunity. To fix this, Mojang added 3 new ghast-related mobs to the game. The first one was the dried ghast, which isn't a mob, it's a block, which drops the amount of new ghast mobs from 3 to 2. Anyway, once the dried ghast becomes wet, it transforms into a ghastling. These things, I've been told, are insanely cute. They are literally baby ghasts that are happy instead of sad, but they are currently useless, and without a lead, they just wander everywhere. So after they grow up, they become a happy ghast. Not only are happy ghasts cute, as I've been told, but they're also extremely useful. Instead of using elytras, which are quick and hard to control, or creative flying, which isn't available in survival, or falling, which is deadly, you can ride a happy ghast. Yes, they go slow, but they are also enjoyable and stylish. These things are especially useful and fun when building something that's in the air, like a sky island or a large sign. Happy ghasts are very useful and very different from their nether counterpart, but they are still considered a variant of the ghast, which is why Mojang didn't add any original mobs in this update. The next game drop was 1.21.9, the Copper Age. This one also only added 1 mob, called the Copper Golem. Oh, I see how it is. You're gonna say that the Copper Golem is unoriginal, just cause it's from a past mob vote. You're stupid, UIT. Oh wait, you're wrong about the mob vote part. Fine, that is one reason why this mob isn't original, but it isn't the main one. You see, there's already one fundamental issue with the Copper Golem that makes it unoriginal, and it's in the name. No, not copper, since there were no copper mobs before it. I'm talking about the word golem. You see, more than a decade before the Copper Golem was even added, 2 other golems were in the game, one made of iron and one made of snow. Now, even though all 3 of these mobs are golems, they have drastically different looks and functions. The most used golem, the iron golem, attacks most hostile mobs, and is a good protector, which is why you get the advancement hired help by summoning it. The next golem is the snow golem. In my experience, I mainly use snow golems for pets and decoration. It's just fun to have this little guy around, especially without a pumpkin, but the copper golem is completely different from all of these, besides being made with a pumpkin. This mob is actually the smallest golem, which means that it can fit in 1 by 1 holes. Furthermore, it changes one fundamental thing that every Minecraft player has to deal with: storage. Copper golems are basically automatic item sorters, and I've already seen people use them all the time. So this is definitely a uniquely useful mob that the community actually needed. But there is one mid thing about it. It is still a variant, because it's a golem made with a pure block plus a carved pumpkin, just like both golems already in the game. But that's just for 1.21.9. Surely there aren't just more variants for the next update, right? So the next update was 1.21.11, the Mounts of Mayhem drop, adding quite a few new mobs. There's the Nautilus, and the Zombie Nautilus, and the Camel Husk, and the Parched. Wait, yeah, so the only non-variant mob added in this update was the Nautilus, which itself is a variant because of its zombie counterpart. This mob is also unoriginal because it technically exists in real life, and this is what it looks like. Pretty cool, right? This mob is also useful and fun for underwater transportation, and combined with the other features in this update, like the spear and its variants, we can turn the Nautilus into a war machine. The zombie Nautilus is quite different. It spawns with drowns wielding spears riding it, and you can also ride it, just like the undead counterpart. But because it's a counterpart, it is still a variant. Now this is kind of fallacious because of the fact that the Nautilus is still a new mob, and the zombie Nautilus is just a variant that happened to be added in the same update. But even with that, the Nautilus still exists in real life. So yeah, mostly unique, but not totally unique. Plus, the Nautilus shell already exists as an item in the game. Okay, fine, let's look at the other mobs. The very next mob added in this update is the zombie horse. Oh gosh. First of all, this mob is a variant of the regular horse, and second of all, it was actually added a while ago, but only through creative mode spawn eggs. And now it just spawns naturally in the wild, so that's cool, but it's still a variant. The next mob is the camel husk, and the name alone makes me lose sanity. It's yet another variant. Granted, it's a pretty cool one, a zombie variant of a mob that doesn't burn under the sun, but it's still a variant of the husk, which itself is a variant of the zombie, so double variant. And the final mob in this drop is the parched. This does sound like a unique mob until you've gone into the trial chambers, because one of the mobs in the trial chambers is the bogged, which sounds unique, but it's really just a swamp skeleton. And go into snowy biomes and you'll find a stray, which sounds totally unique, but it's just a snowy skeleton. And guess what the parched is? Hint, it can ride camel husks. You guessed it? No way, it's a husk variant of the skeleton. So every single mob added in this update, the parched, camel husk, zombie horse, Nautilus, zombie Nautilus, and a third Nautilus variant that I forgot to mention, are all variants of already existing mobs. Maybe a bit iffy for the Nautilus though. And so are the other ones from the previous drops. The copper golem is a golem, the happy ghast is a ghast, and the cold and warm variants of the cows, chickens, and pigs are still cows, chickens, and pigs. Basically, no new mobs were added. As I said, the new mobs added are variants, but I never said that variants aren't good. In fact, it's the opposite. The worst a variant can be is useless, which means that none of them are destructive. They literally just add on to the game while not destroying any of it. Plus, other than pure functional additions, variants are just kinda cool. Discarding the fact that the warm and cold cows and pigs are literally functionally useless additions, they add variety and life into the overworld. If the biome is warm or cold, then the texture of the mob should correspond respectively, not just for retextures of the Spring to Life drop, but also for mobs like the stray, bogged, parched, husk, and drowned. It does get a little annoying when very similar variants are completely separate spawnings though. Actually, the fact that I mentioned 3 skeleton variants but only 2 zombie variants is interesting, especially since I forgot to mention the wither skeleton. I have a prediction. Sometime in the future, I guess within the next year, I predict that Mojang will add at least one more zombie variant, either for the swamp or for the trial chamber or for something else. But I don't know what they will be called. Due to how husks are husks of zombies and that drowns are drowned zombies, maybe the swamp variant of them could be called a swamped. Oh, and don't tell me about the witch. That's a villager variant, not a zombie one. Although a zombie witch could be a pretty cool idea thanks to the property of harming potions healing the undead and healing potions harming the undead. So yeah, Mojang haven't been adding many original mobs recently. They're either useless variants that add life or functional variants that are useful. I actually like the direction that Mojang is currently going in. They can actually release more features and change the game more by doing this, since it's easier and takes less time, just like netherite horse armor. Some say that they should keep doing this, especially with hostile mobs like with creepers. Not necessarily that they should have different mechanics based on which biome they spawn in, but if they're in a snowy biome, they should look snowy. If they're in a desert biome, they should look sandy. Stuff like that. Anyway, thanks for watching this UIT Minecraft video, Romans 14:11, and until next time, undefeatable army.